Hi, welcome to the Thursday episode of Stand Up. I've got Professor Nicolas Grossman joining me, and he is as brilliant as always. It's Thursday, which means I generally host a hangout on Thursday night for paid subscribers at 8 p.m., but not tonight. The second week in a row that I won't be able to do it. It kills me. I'm sorry. But I have a private event with some important folks in New York City that you would want me to go to that I'm hoping helps grow the show. And it's just a good meeting with some interesting and important folks that I'll tell you more about. Also, this weekend, I'll be in Washington, D.C. with Glenn Kirshner and a whole bunch of other very smart, thoughtful, influential justice warriors, and very much looking forward to that. And that, I think, those are the housekeeping notes I wanted to tell you here at the top. Now let's get to today's headlines before we get to my conversation with Nicolas Grossman. But if you want to jump to the interview, it begins at about 21 minutes into today's show. Here's what I've got for you today. Let's see. Now, family members and sailors are saying that months at sea with no end in sight to a grueling Middle East deployment have intensified worries about mental health and the risk of self-harm aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln. Those concerns were brought directly to Navy leadership yesterday when family members spoke to the acting naval secretary and other officials during intense town halls, according to at least two spouses that attended. So we'll hear more about that, I'm sure. How about this? Immigration and Customs, ICE, are soon going to get these electric gloves. Did you hear about that yesterday? They can deliver painful electric shocks intended to gain compliance from combative individuals, it says. ICE plans to spend up to $20 million to purchase thousands of conductive distraction and de-escalation advices, they call them, for officers and agents by March. I can't wait till they roll them out and we figure out a way to reverse those electric gloves. It's horrific, and it's a ridiculous weapon to use against people accused of civil defenses. And so I think that's not going to happen, or if it does, it's going to backfire real bad. A third immigrant held at a troubled Newark detention facility, Delancey Hall, has died after suffering a medical emergency, according to New Jersey's Attorney General, who's opened a civil rights investigation into the facility last week. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt is stepping down at the end of the month. What? Where's she going? She just came back. She just had another kid with her 70-year-old husband, didn't she? No announcement how long it's going to take for her to get a job at Fox News, or how much time it's going to take for Scott Jennings to leave CNN to replace her. But I think it'll be a matter of days or weeks. How about this? In a closely watched case, a federal judge Tuesday blocked the U.S. Postal Service from implementing part of Schittler's executive order that aims to tighten rules for mail-in voting ahead of November elections that will decide control of Congress. The ruling by a U.S. district judge in Boston marked the latest setback for his push to expand the federal government's role in overseeing elections, which is ridiculous. And the Trump administration apparently is pulling federal funding for an annual report chronicling the changing environment of the Arctic, where rapid warming is upending ecosystems, reconfiguring trade routes, and scrambling the great power strategy. The crisis is going to persist, and this administration is going to bury their head in the very dry sand. Yeah, that's right. Trump administration killing a flagship annual report on the Arctic. We got news yesterday that Russia is releasing an American military veteran. Robert Gilman is headed home, allowing his return to the U.S. after 4 years of what his family and U.S. officials say has been a wrongful incarceration and abusive treatment that left him near death. I'm surprised we're not hearing more about that. I'm surprised the Trump administration isn't touting that they got him freed. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they don't care, and maybe they don't want anybody to know because they're good friends with Putin. The recent horrible earthquake in Colombia has officials fearing more than 200 people are trapped alive under the rubble. So obviously they are searching for any survivors there in Colombia. How about this? 5 years ago, before he was health secretary, Robert F. Kennedy visited a Pennsylvania county and told them that the cure for measles was chicken soup and vitamin A. And now that county, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, is now at the center of a major measles outbreak. Well, I don't know why I'm laughing. That's fucking horrible, and I apologize. Let's see. Finally, speaking of horror, 3 states plan to execute human beings in America on Thursday. That would be the first time in more than a decade that 3 people on death row were killed in the same day. Maybe they'll fail. They sometimes fail. They failed the first time with one of these guys. The executions are set to be carried out by lethal injection in Alabama, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. The shame that should come to those states, those legislatures, and everybody who supports the death penalty is unparalleled, in my opinion. 2 soldiers are dead after a military helicopter crashed in Texas on Wednesday, according to the Army. An Apache helicopter crashed, so that's horrific. But hey, at least there was a cool eclipse in Europe. Did you see the pictures? Did you hear about it? Did you read about it? My daughter said they didn't see it. It was just a sliver in Italy. But that's what I'm going to end on yesterday. All right. Those are the headlines for today. Let's get to the clip show, shall we? First, here is our friend Al Gore. I found an Al Gore clip, and I want to share it with you. He's talking on Bloomberg, and let's take a listen.
And polluting and threatening humanity. There's an old saying that came from the king of Saudi Arabia years ago. The Stone Age didn't end because of a shortage of stones. It ended because something better came along. Something better has come along now to replace fossil fuels, which are dirty and polluting and threatening humanity's future. The cheapest electricity in the history of the world is solar energy. Second cheapest is wind energy. And now batteries, that the only thing that's come down in price faster than solar is utility scale batteries, doubling every single.
Why are we ending the wind farms that are now being built off the coast of the United States? We're ending them.
Because Trump is insane.
I mean, there's no other way to say it. I'm so glad that that's how he said it, because Trump is insane. Yeah, good stuff, Al Gore. Keep up the good work, okay? Let's now head over to Jon Ossoff. Senator Jon Ossoff was on MS Now with Jen Psaki talking about this scandal on the USS Abraham and more.
On a record-breaking deployment, as everybody knows. But there are no reports that on the Lincoln there have been multiple attempts by sailors to jump overboard as poor conditions and mental stresses, a lack of food, a lack of clean clothing, a lack of materials they need. It reaches a breaking point. I find this incredibly infuriating, heartbreaking. I mean, these service members have been at sea for nearly 9 months at this point. What's your reaction to the conditions they're facing?
Yeah, these reports are deeply disturbing. And, I want to express on behalf of everybody in Georgia our deep gratitude and appreciation for the sailors and the naval aviators and the Marines who are deployed and who are putting their lives on the line in service to the United States. I think we have to step back and recognize that this entire war is based on lies. They told us last year that the Iranian nuclear threat was obliterated. Then they told us earlier this year that there was an imminent nuclear threat. Both times lies. On day 4 of this war, President Trump declared victory. Months ago, Secretary Hegseth said that all of our objectives had been achieved. The war continues. Iran still has its uranium. Hormuz remains closed. This is a complete fiasco. It is a catastrophic failure by the commander-in-chief personally and his entire national security team.
Well, Jon Ossoff, succinct and accurate as always. Now let's head to Wisconsin, where we can hear from the winner of Tuesday night's primary for governor. And the story coming out of what Wisconsin, I believe, is how bad the polling was, how inaccurate it was. But I do want to hear and learn more about David Crowley, who Democrats voted for in Wisconsin for their governor. He would be the first black man to be the governor of Wisconsin. If he wins in November, here he is.
And I especially want to thank Representative Francesca Hong. Her campaign reminded people across Wisconsin that there are no long shots when it comes to believing in a better future and fighting to expand opportunities to every family. That kind of passion, it strengthens our democracy. And I look forward to earning their support and everyone who participated in this campaign as we move forward together. Over the past few months, you've heard a lot of people try to define this election as a battle between the left and the center, between progressives and the establishment, between insiders and outsiders. That narrative misses the entire point of what we're doing. Because when I traveled across Wisconsin, I didn't meet people who introduced themselves that way. I met parents wondering how they'll afford childcare. I met workers who want wages that keep up with the cost of living. I met farmers trying to preserve family traditions. I met small business owners trying to keep their doors open, and I met seniors who deserve security and dignity after a lifetime of work. I met young people who simply want a fair chance to build a life right here in this great state we call Wisconsin. We may not agree on every policy. We may not use the same labels, but we all want safe communities, strong schools, affordable health care, good paying jobs, and a brighter future for all of our children. And every one of us has something much bigger to unite around. And that is keeping MAGA extremism from bringing the chaos we see in Washington into our neighborhoods right here in the state of Wisconsin. From the very first day that I announced this campaign, I said the real threat wasn't any of my primary opponents. The real opponent has always been Tom Tiffany. That remains true today. Tom Tiffany stood with those who tried to overturn a free and fair presidential election instead of defending our democracy. He's worked in lockstep with Donald Trump to slash programs that Wisconsin families depend on, including SNAP and health care for our children, our seniors and veterans and working families. He backed harmful, costly policies like the war in Iran, while too many families right here, right at home, are struggling to make ends meet. He spends his time fueling culture wars because sowing division is much easier than delivering results. Wisconsin, we deserve better than politicians who divide us for their own political gain. We deserve leaders who wake up every single morning asking one simple question: how can I make life better for the people we serve? That's what this campaign has always been.
There you go. There's David Crowley, and he sounds pretty good to me. So that's what Wisconsin is going to be thinking about and looking at for the next couple of months. And let's do everything we can to help him beat that asshole. All right. Now let's listen to a this is great. Have you been paying attention to the scandal, the controversy at the WNBA around race and the fouling? Hard fouls have something to do with race, the white girls getting beat up, as well as the trans athlete issue. They're trying to make a big thing of that. So I thought it'd be interesting to listen to the coach of the Indiana Fever, Stephanie White, on this.
Oh, I'm going to start today. This isn't necessarily for those people that are in this room. This is more for an online community that's trying to create narratives that simply don't exist, trying to create a fabrication or distortion of who I am, of what I'm about. Our players' success, our players' health and wellness, our players' safety is always a top priority for me. One of the things I pride myself on is my relationships with players. For those who have anything to say about the play in the last game, I didn't see the play in real time. I went straight to a press conference. I thought the play got called right. Thankfully, Sophie's okay. Was it egregious? Absolutely. When you have a chance to watch that over and over and over on replay, you can see that. I didn't have that in real time.
Were there any
I take personally any suggestions that I don't 100% always have my players back. I ride with them 10 toes down all the time. All the time. They know that. It's a shame that we can't have an opportunity to talk about what great basketball they're playing. Because they are fucking playing. The reality is, with me, I will always lead with love. I will always lead with grace. I will always lead with humility. And I will always lead with integrity. Doesn't mean I'll always get it right. I'm also human. The hate, the fear-mongering, the divisiveness, the stuff that's trying to hijack our league will not win. It won't win. We are united. We are connected. We will not be divided. Every day these women put their on the line. Every day. When they go low, we go high. Love will win. Grace will win. Humility will win. And kindness will win. I stand by them. I will always stand by them. Everybody else can go to hell.
Ah, damn, I loved it. She just got up and walked out of the press conference right there. Oh, man. We'll see what happens there. But it's such nonsense and bullshit. And I do think that league will overcome these controversies and be better for it, I hope. I'm not paying that close attention. So if anybody wants to talk about that, I think maybe we should and we can. All right. Now I want to go to Peggy Flanagan. She is won the primary in Minnesota to become the Democratic nominee for senator. She is the former lieutenant governor there, and she was the progressive in the race, and she is now going to be the nominee for senator there. Here she is.
Now, I just got off the phone with Congresswoman Craig, and she assured me that she is in this fight with us. And look, it is no secret that Congresswoman Craig and I haven't seen eye to eye on everything. And that's okay, because that's what primaries are all about. We are both proud Democrats, both proud DFLers, and we love this state. And we both know that we just can't hand Donald Trump another Senate seat. And I want to be very clear that to everyone who voted for Angie Craig, I appreciate that you made your voice heard. But I also want you to know this, that I will work my tail off to earn your votes and, most importantly, your trust. Because I need you in this fight. Minnesota needs you in this fight. Because Donald Trump has cost our state far too much already. And we are not about to give Donald Trump another loyal soldier like Michelle Tafoya to take his orders and do his bidding. Michelle Tafoya was all in with Trump when ICE was terrorizing our neighbors. She even said ICE treated children really, really well. Well, Michelle, tell that to Liam Conejo Ramos. Tell that to the parents who were disappeared. Tell that to the kids who don't know where their mom or dad are right now. Because the last thing this country needs is to give Donald Trump another yes, sir, senator. Trump cut 15 million people off of their health care, and Michelle Tafoya said, yes, sir. Tax breaks for billionaires? Yes, sir, you betcha. Crushing tariffs? Yes, sir. An illegal war that's costing us billions? Michelle Tafoya said, yes, sir, Mr. President.
All right. The hopeful future senator in Minnesota, Peggy Flanagan right there. And Democrats hopefully coming together to help her win in Minnesota. Now let's go to Rosie O'Donnell, who sat down with Kara Swisher on her podcast. I love Rosie. I know Rosie, and I'm always rooting for her.
I wanted to do that on Kimmel, but they just told me I can't. Oh. That they couldn't get permission for the parody because it's political content. And I was like, well, that is absurd to me because we used to do parodies every day on my show.
Wait, I don't understand.
Well, I've been told I'm not allowed to do that. Now, I don't know. It's not
like
Jimmy.
To sing a bit of it here?
Yes. His approval rate is 30. His diaper's always dirty. I think the guy's insane. Da-da-da-da-da-da. He ain't no stable genius, got a teeny tiny penis, and he doesn't have a brain. But,
yes. More Rosie. Thank you very much. Love that. And let's go finally to Hunter Biden, everybody, who was giving yet another interview, another day, another Hunter Biden clip, apparently.
AOC. I look at her and I think that, and I see the future of the Democratic Party in every way. I think that AOC, not only as a communicator, but as someone that can that has an instinct to find common ground, that believes that in order for that we do have to have some kind of radical change. And that's not a radical thing to say. It's not a radical thing to say that the system is completely broken. It doesn't work. The idea that 80% of Americans could believe that, the healthcare is a fundamental right, but we still don't have a universal healthcare in one way or another, by whatever means necessary, is crazy.
There you go. There's Hunter Biden. Here's a little bit more of Hunter Biden thanking everybody for supporting his dad.
Hey, everybody. I just wanted to take a moment and thank everyone that has reached out to me, thousands of people that have reached out to me to send their love and support and prayers for my dad, who, by the way, is same diagnosis. Nothing's changed. He is incredibly tough, and it's an inspiration to us all, and certainly an inspiration to me in the way that he handles every one of these hurdles. As he says, if you get knocked down, just get up. And that's what he's doing every day. And I'm inspired by it every day. He is my rock. He's the rock of our family. And I know to so many of you, he is also that inspiration. And I just wanted to tell you how incredibly grateful we all are for all of the love and all of the support. So it's just a thank you. I really, really appreciate it. My whole family appreciates it. And he's doing okay. He's going to be okay.
Well, there you go, Hunter Biden. And those are the clips that I've gathered for you on today's clip show. Hope you appreciate it. Send me what you're seeing, and I will try to get it on. StandUpWithPete@gmail.com, Patreon.com/Pete Dominick to support me in the show if you like it. And now it's time to get to my interview. Today's guest is Professor Nicolas Grossman of the University of Illinois. He's the author of Drones and Terrorism, Asymmetric Warfare and the Threat to Global Security. And he is a assistant professor at the University of Illinois Department of Political Science. You should follow and support him on Blue Sky, and you should go subscribe to his Substack, where he's got other contributors join him as well at Arc Digital. He's really one of the smartest guys I've found to talk and listen to, and he is clear, he is concise, and I could listen to him answer these questions forever. I think he's going to be a regular here on the show, so I hope you like it. Let's do it right now with Professor Nicolas Grossman. Professor Nicolas Grossman, thank you very much for joining me. It's a lot that I want to ask you about. Good to see you.
Thanks, Pete. Good to see you too.
So, well, first of all, plugs. Anything that you want to plug? Any posts or any of yours? Anything at your Substack? Or anything else that you're that you want?
Nah, let's get right to it.
All right, let's get right to it. And the most important issue is that we found out last night with some reporting. I think it was the Washington Post. Should we give him credit? That the President of the United States he escaped. He snuck out of his plane in the Middle East in Turkey, and he got on a catering truck, and he snuck to a different plane. And then apparently he sent all the reporters in the plane that had a credible threat to it, thus throwing the press, I don't know, into a pretty potentially dangerous situation. So it's pathetic and crazy and scary and kind of funny. Let's do all the reactions. Do you think he ate his way to the plane?
If he's in the catering truck for a while, and he could get a little parched, a little famished, maybe he would take part of whatever there was there. Sure.
So why is this actually a serious issue that this happened and that he lied to us about it?
So I do think on a bigger sense, just first of where thinking simultaneously that a lot of this is funny and really terrible. At the same time, even though they seem kind of contradictory, I really do think it's the way to go. Like it's, a lot of it is funny in like how appalling you'll go insane if you don't laugh sometimes at it. And it is both. Like, so this is ridiculous and funny, but also really bad. And so among the really bad, parts of it, it highlights a lot of flaws in U.S. security, including the plane that he took as a $400 million bribe from Qatar, and that has had to spend, on top of that, hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars trying to fix and get ready for that level of Air Force One security, and still could not actually fly on that plane because the plane was not sufficient in the security measures. It's really bad in terms of things like treatment of the press and White House staff that both not inadvertently, he did it on purpose, but without telling them, made a bunch of, say, White House staffers and press as a decoy that didn't even inform them that they were at risk. When the other plane, the one that he went on, would then become a target if anybody figured it out, if they actually were trying to kill him, whoever was plotting, if that's true. Were trying to kill him, they could have figured it out and targeted that plane, which also didn't have the security measures. One bit, if people were looking closely, and this, again, I don't know how serious this plot was, but if it was done by, say, serious professionals, especially connected to intelligence, they would know that when the United States president travels, he always brings his own food. The U.S. delegation always brings their own food. They don't go to foreign countries and, just have to do the, old school food taster thing or have an allergy, who knows what. And so they bring their own food. So the fact they were moving the catering cart from plane to plane was already something that was a little shady. And on top of that, it's the whole context of the terribly failing Iran war.
I wonder if it was his idea. You know what we should do, guys? Take the food truck. I don't know how we're going to get over there. Maybe the food truck. I'm not going without my food. It's just filled.
Well, also, Taylor Swift was once photographed being snuck, I think it was past a giant crowd in a food truck. And so maybe there's some of the, celebrity worship starfucker element of him that wanted that experience too.
I hid inside a cake once. All right, moving on. And nobody
Did you burst out? Was it somebody's birthday?
No, Nick, I don't like to talk about this because it's a trauma. Friends just did it to me, and then they just left me in an empty hotel room. No one ever showed up, the birthday person. I got to ask you about the larger Middle East question, the larger Iran war question. There's all this reporting that Trump is just going to slink away from this and walk away from it. Yesterday, there's this headline that you shared and commented about. I think this is the Wall Street Journal. Gulf states accept a new normal in Hormuz. Iran is in control. Iran is in control after months and months of war. They have the leverage. I mean, give me the broad view as you see it now and what it looks like is happening from the U.S. point of view.
Objectively, yes, that Iran has more leverage, more control. A big part of the reason is the thing that they need to do and the United States needs to do are so uneven. It's incredibly asymmetric. So all Iran needs to be able to do is fire an occasional missile or drone into a pretty large waterway. I mean, even though we call it Strait of Hormuz, there's all the water around it. And to hit ships or even really just scare shipping companies and insurance companies into thinking it's too risky, it won't be profitable, and then they won't go. And they have hundreds of miles of coastline and a lot of mountainous area with which to do this. Whereas the United States is trying to do either some sort of regime change or strategic goal by bombing only. And the record on this, there's a famous political science book called Bombing to Win. The record on bombing from afar and only that, no ground operations, achieving strategic goals, it has happened literally 0 times. Literally 0. It does not work. And then in theory would be open the Strait of Hormuz by what? Just again, bombing them in a few different places. And no, they just need to get one drone or like one speedboat with explosives or something into the water. And the U.S. has killed a bunch of people, destroyed a bunch of stuff, but can't stop that. So they have much more leverage and they are no longer afraid of the United States because the thing that they were afraid of, the thing that deterred them, was exactly what Trump went and did to them in March unprovoked. And so that big U.S. attack was what they were afraid of, why they wouldn't do something like try to take control of Hormuz. And then Trump, by attacking them and the fact that they survived it, then gave them much more incentive to do it and kind of a more, righteous argument and the military strength to do it. And so every time we hear about either an imminent peace deal or that Trump is going to walk away or he doesn't care anymore or anything like that, it is just entirely bullshit. I don't know if that means that the White House is lying or if they just badly misunderstand the situation because, they've cut out all the experts and refuse to listen to anybody and have these ideas of war that you win by just basically doing the most war crimes and kind of being telling everybody you're tough on television or on streaming that you win. But that's not how it works. And we are seeing the results of that. The Iranians get to decide whether it ends or not because they get to decide whether ships go through the strait and that affects the U.S. and global economy.
You shared this piece by the Wall Street Journal. Carl Quintanilla posts, Persian Gulf energy producers are concluding that Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz will become permanent, disrupting their oil and gas exports and global energy supplies indefinitely. And you quoted this, Nick, and wrote, the Gulf autocrats bribed the wrong guy. Actually, their mistake was thinking a corrupt, ignorant U.S. president was in their interest. So this is a really interesting dangerous, scary, maybe predictable outcome in terms of alliances, in terms of bets made and deals made. And obviously Jared Kushner and his role working with many of these Arab states and the Trumps in general for years. What are you saying? What is this headline saying? And what does this mean for the chessboard, which is the Arab world, I guess, vis-a-vis Iran?
So the headline is saying that the Arab states at first they even before the war, let's start to there, where they could just move their oil and other goods like fertilizer and helium, which is using MRI machines, and really there's tons of stuff that goes through there, that they could just ship it out free international waters and then sell it. And then because of the war and Iran blocking the Strait of Hormuz, then they couldn't. But they kept on then encouraging, once Iran did this, Trump to go harder, go for regime change war, finally beat their enemy once and for all, because then they would let their ships go through. And then recently, when there was talk of another cycle of Trump bombing Iran, failing, and then making a bunch of big over-the-top threats, reportedly, Mohammed bin Salman, the ruler of Saudi Arabia, had urged him, don't do it, not to do it. Which means, if you read between the lines, that Saudi Arabia is at least open to then paying tolls to its rival Iran just to get their ships out. That's how desperate they are. And in a way, it is a vote of no confidence in the United States. So you see a number of Arab countries who started with, Trump's going to bomb Iran and then fix it. And then, okay, well, now that Iran blocked the Strait of Hormuz, well, of course, Trump will do stuff and the U.S. will do stuff that'll open it back up and will win. And now that they see that he is not capable of doing that, and a combination of both the geography and the circumstances with his personal incompetence and, constantly lying, it makes it that a deal is basically impossible. How could the Iranians possibly trust that he'll honor anything that he agrees to? And so with all that being impossible, it seems like the Arab countries are accepting to some degree that if we want our economies to have their lifeline to be able to ship all this stuff around the world, we're going to have to pay off the Iranians, and the Americans aren't going to be able to fix it. And I do want to caution that part of this is a lot of people involved are negotiating through the media. They're doing strategic leaks and statements. And so it is also possible that this is somebody like an Iranian that is trying to make it that it seems like a fait accompli that they're going to win, or somebody within one of the Arab countries that believes that they should do this, but is trying to have that argument and make it a fait. So I don't know. Those are possibilities. It also could be genuine, but so I wouldn't overread into that. But the broader circumstances is the Arab economies, the Gulf economies, not Arabs all, but all the Arab countries. But the Gulf economies are pretty screwed if they can't start getting stuff out. And they can't as long as Iran blocks it. And then Saudi Arabia is getting hit from the other side by the Houthis, their other major route out of the country. And that means that they need Hormuz or they need the Red Sea. And without that, they are pretty screwed. And so, yeah, it looks like Trump has lost it so badly that he went and flipped a bunch of Arab countries from U.S. supporters with freedom of navigation to U.S. at least somewhat skeptics, and without freedom of navigation, with Iran getting billions in new revenue.
Whew. Wow. I mean, the way the Iranians are saying, and a lot of analysts are saying, that they were watching domestic politics in America. This is often the case in foreign policy. There's an election coming up. If gas prices go up, that's bad for Trump and Republicans. He knows how bad that is. It means he gets impeached. He has serious concerns about losing power, losing the House. He's going to cheat, and so on. And the Trump administration, if you listen to any of their representatives, they'll say, they're feeling a lot of pain. They're feeling, let's see if they can, how much longer they can put up. They're clearly feeling the pain. They're up against it and all of that. But the truth is, Americans are far less resilient than Iranians in this situation. And they've seen a lot worse. And I think in a lot of ways. And so we're just seeing gas prices going up. That's going to make a huge difference. So my question is it going to continue to get worse, do you think, in terms of gas prices and the prices of other things, the cost of things to the midterm election? And do you think that kind of, conventional wisdom that the Iranians can take a lot more of a beating than we can is true?
Yes. So on the last one, definitely, in terms of the lot more of a beating, one is the asymmetry of power. But a big part of it also is that Iran is a repressive authoritarian state. At the beginning of this year, they killed tens of thousands of pro-democracy protesters. It was a faster rate of civilian killing than at any point, I'm pretty sure, at any point in the Gaza war or in the Ukraine war. So they don't need to really worry about a lot of those elections. And with Trump's help, that by killing a lot of the Iranians who are more open to things like negotiations or some sort of accommodation, he has further empowered the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. and they are largely indifferent to the suffering of the people of Iran. So things like, we're going to bomb a bunch of civilian targets, that their reaction is like, okay, then people will get more pissed off and will support us more. And so the United States still, while now, not really a democracy in what political scientists call competitive authoritarianism, is still competitive, still has elections, and that the Democrats look like they're in really good shape. And one of the reasons, the Iranians are very aware of the American domestic political calendar. There's the classic example of the Iranian hostage crisis in 1979, and where they held out making a deal with Carter because 1979 and 1980, and they held out making a deal with Carter because they thought they could get a better deal from Reagan, and that they didn't want to make Carter look good, maybe help him get reelected. And so, similarly, it would be in their interest for Trump and the Republicans to lose more power in Washington. I think the Iranians correctly think that they are likely to get more, or at least just weaken the United States and weaken Trump with that. And it's hard to say exactly by November what the economy will be like. That's a few months, and forecasting precision like that can't really be done. But yes, I am very, very confident that the economy is headed down. Many ways get a lot worse. A lot of it's being propped up by the AI bubble at this point. And we are currently in the midst of the biggest oil shock in history. Period. And it's not close, bigger than the 1970s. And granted, we are more diversified away from oil, and we have things like reserves we can draw down on, so it's not hitting as immediately. But the asteroid already hit, just the tidal wave isn't here yet. Or the first parts item, they don't want to overstretch that analogy. But things like, just to give you a very specific example of this, next year, so with the oil blocked, diesel prices are high. And with a lot of the fertilizer blocks, so fertilizer prices are high. So agriculture in the United States and pretty much everywhere is going to have a hard time next year. And they're also going to have to spend more to then ship their stuff to market. And so food prices are going to go up everywhere, and probably farms are going to go out of business. And that's just one small example of this that we haven't felt yet, in part because, I guess, credit where it's due, Trump and his team have been quite good at market manipulation. And so there's still a decent amount of denial there, but I'm getting really, 2006 vibes that people already saw problems in the real estate bubble at that point, real estate market, but it didn't crash until 2008. And when Wall Street was forced to admit it by reality. And I'm not saying it'll be the same way or exactly the same scale. I don't know, but I think something similar that, yes, this is likely to get worse. Yes, that's in Iran's interest. And yes, they can do that. They have the ability to do that. So I expect them to.
Read Nicolas's piece at MS Now, right? Trump restarted bombing, and what did he get for it? Hormuz closed, more economic damage. Lost Oman, which was working with the U.S. before, a vote of no confidence from the Saudis, worsened munitions shortage, more U.S. casualties, no concessions from Iran, now poised to surrender. How important and how accurate do you think that reporting is about the munitions shortage? You don't have to go into detail about what all the missiles do and stuff, Nick. I mean, but at the same time, everybody seems to be saying the same thing, and even his Secretary of Defense or War, whatever the hell you want to call it, I can't possibly say war, is throwing the Undersecretary under the bus in terms of apparently there's reporting Trump lost his mind. And why didn't anybody tell me that we were short missiles? And then Hegseth was like, it was that guy's fault. Yeah. So is this a serious issue? And I mean, how big of a deal or a blunder is it?
Mm-hmm. I do like that the Hegseth gets the henchman voice.
Hey, how?
See?
Yeah, we could do the rest of the interview. I didn't know you had those chops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it fits there. But your Trump voice is definitely better than mine. But so the munitions shortage, I won't go into all the details, say for non-military people, and many of them probably know it already. But where we used a lot of our best stuff. Now, this was a long-running problem that within U.S. circles, within U.S. defense circles, have worried about the rates of missile production, of different theories of stuff like air defense. You can see in the Ukraine war how this stuff can run short, or in the Iran war for that matter, of the best air defense stuff. Just all these different things where there's backlogs. It takes a lot of the contracts are sold years in advance. The factories are making as much as they can. It's not like you can just ramp up production and get a bunch more really quickly. And it takes a long time to build a new factory. So already there were some concerns. And then in a combination of, Iran is the biggest one, but with There's the Caribbean boat bombings, and there were some missile strikes in Nigeria that Trump ordered. And there was bombing Iran last year, in which he lied that they totally destroyed their nuclear program and then went to war. And there was the war in Yemen against the Houthis that Trump and Hegseth launched in early 2025, spent over $1 billion worth of these, again, fancy munitions, some of the best missiles, and then did accomplish nothing, killed some people, destroyed some stuff, but accomplished nothing and quit. So with all of these combined, the two big things that the U.S. is short of is the precision attack missiles, blow up something specifically that we directly point at. Instead of the dumb bombs, we got tons of those. And the missile defense to be able to shoot down enemy missiles. And so, yeah, the shortage is quite serious. That Trump's idea of just bomb them more. I mean, this isn't a video game. There's no infinite ammunition cheat code that he shot off a lot of them and then had to redirect other things away from different countries and other U.S. allies, for example, or U.S. positions. U.S. air defense, for example, in South Korea has been lowered a lot as a result. If North Korea or China wanted to start something there that they could, if China wanted to go for Taiwan, they'd find it much easier. Russia will find it easier. So it's going to both embolden America's enemies, weaken the United States, and it puts Trump in this position where he really is out of cards when it comes to Iran, because he clearly doesn't want to escalate to a ground invasion. That is very unlikely to work anyway. And he's out of most of the smart bombs. We're getting down into we really need this contingency in case there's a major war with China type of contingency.
Right.
Plan.
Yeah, I keep hearing that.
And that's a serious problem.
That seems like it would be a serious problem. I don't think we should get in a serious war with China, though. I don't think.
No, me neither. I'd rather not. But that's the whole point of it, is that the way that you avoid a serious war with China, just like we did in the Cold War with the Soviet Union, is by deterring it, is by making it that they believe that it will be that it won't work for them. It'll be really negative. It is a thing that the United States failed to do with Russia invading Ukraine, to make it that this will be really bad for you, don't do it. It's something the U.S. has succeeded at doing with South Korea, with Taiwan, with Eastern Europe, with a lot of Europe, not Eastern was behind the Iron Curtain, but a lot of Europe throughout the Cold War, anyway, so the U.S. has done this a lot. The point is deter it, and the way you deter it is things like, we have so many missiles that you would lose very quickly, so don't try it.
Right. Deterrence. Let me ask you a little bit about domestic politics and how you're viewing these runoffs. I feel like you've been poking fun at leftists and the conversation leftists like to have, or at least some of the strategies on your Blue Sky account. But how do you see what's happening right now? We talked about this before, but I want to get your view as a result of the Michigan primary today. It's Wisconsin, and people are saying that if this woman, Francesca Hong, I think her name is, and lives in Wisconsin, wins in Wisconsin, the Democrats could likely lose that state to an election denier, and that Wisconsin would then not confirm the results of the next presidential election. I mean, I've heard all kinds of concerns and criticisms. I'm interested in all of it. I'm not sure what I think. What's your top lines?
So my main thing is that a lot of factional infighting annoys me. That I think there are bigger things happening. That if there's ever been a time in history for a popular front, this is it. And so when it comes to a cliche for this is vote blue no matter who. And personally, it really bothers me that somebody would say that for Kamala Harris, but would not say that for El Sayed in Michigan. That, he won the he won the primary. He's the nominee. He's on board with basic check Trump rule of law stuff. And so as far as I'm concerned, the rest of it is a lot less important. Of that, Graham Plattner in Maine was one for, and I understand maybe people have different personal lives, but a lot of the Nazi tattoo and all the history of, and then eventually escalated to, accusations of rape and the mercenary work. And there were just so many red flags. And he seemed like genuinely bad person and bad as a party politically, but he's already out. So that seems positive. I haven't followed the Wisconsin governor race too closely because mostly I pay more attention to national and international than to state. But I think a lot of it is overblown. And this might be words that I eat, but I think that so much of it are these details that political junkies who already know how they're going to vote are paying attention to. And a lot of the difference seems to be with a lot of the appeal of more leftist progressive candidates is that they are fighters, that a lot of the establishment candidates who portray themselves as fighters, Jon Ossoff in Georgia is a good example of this. They are doing very well, and or I guess maybe more centrist, however you want to call them. So there have been a bunch that have won either, and a lot of it is fighters or not. And so just a lot of it is like Michigan is a great example of it. I hope he wins. I hope the Democrats take the Senate. And then after that, if there are internal arguments over, for example, Israel-Palestine, great. We'll hash them out. We'll work them out.
Lastly, when it comes to the idea of accountability, I never know if we'll get any with this guy and this administration. If America ever gets accountability for anything, our generation certainly hasn't gotten much. But I do want to just mention this New York Times piece by Michael Schmidt that you shared about what actually might have occurred back in 2016 with Russia's election meddling, which so many people have accepted the conspiracy theory that it was a hoax. And even some mainstream corporate journalists don't push back when that kind of thing is said. To me, there still needs to be accountability for Russia's election interference. There was a tremendous amount of smoke, connections, and so much more. And I wonder what this piece was about, if you wanted to mention anything about that, if it's something that you ever think about, if it's something that you think we need accounting for, because this is a pretty big deal piece. But of course, it goes undercovered, underreported, maybe because of everything else that's happening.
Right, there's so much that's happening, and it's about a decade old at this point. And I still care, and I take it seriously. So the issue, what this revealed in the article, was that the United States had so Russia conducted a big anti-American intelligence operation. And U.S. counterintelligence is looking into it. U.S. law enforcement is looking into it as standard procedure. So there are those kind of two investigations. And I always think it is incredibly strange, just baseless, to say that if U.S. counterintelligence has evidence of a foreign hostile intelligence operation, they shouldn't look into it at all. Like, even investigating it is wrong. That is literally their job. That's why they exist. That's why we have them. But what we found out from this article was that in early Trump's first year, so early 2017, that when DOJ set up the Robert Mueller special counsel, what they effectively did was set up a law enforcement only investigation and kill off the counterintelligence investigation. And counterintelligence plays by different rules, and they don't need to prove something beyond a reasonable doubt in court. And there are, pluses and minuses to that. They sometimes do things that release information that embarrasses people and gets them shunned, but isn't actually illegal. Whether government should do that or not, I think there's good criticism of that.
Yeah.
But the basic idea of counterintelligence is, a strong one. And I, even at the time, thought, reading between the lines, that counterintelligence really had it. That you can even see elements of this in the Mueller report, of where they talked about the Trump campaign chair, Paul Manafort, having secret meetings with an Russian intelligence contact named Konstantin Kilimnik, and that Manafort gave proprietary campaign data to Kilimnik. And always I come up this one like, polling of, if anybody thinks that proprietary data is not worth a lot, I would like to welcome them to the 21st century.
Yeah. My understanding is it gives them data that allows them to see where voters are and what their views are, and then they target them on social media platforms like Facebook using the Cambridge Analytica data. Like, isn't that what happened? Something like that? Like, it was.
And it's not. I do want to be careful about how we have no idea if this changed any votes. The honest scientific answer I can come up with, different theories about what might have happened, is plausible to me in terms of election outcomes. But
whether it doesn't matter, though. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter if it changed any votes, right? Though what matters is that an American who worked on the presidential campaign gave proprietary information to a Russian counterpart. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter if it
got a plan for a Russian-friendly plan for Ukraine to then advocate with the candidate in return. And very, very shady. If you remember, he worked for free. But yes, I totally agree on all of this as a major security breach. And then I also, though, when you mentioned accountability, feel like, yes, there should be, but also bigger things have happened. So it would be lower on my list of accountabilities.
Fair enough. Yeah. Other things happened yesterday. There's a goddamn corruption scandal, a Watergate, every day. So I get your point about accountability. It's worth mentioning for people's memory about what happened in this new reporting. But yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I mean, there are bigger things to think about. And I think that daily corruption might be one of them.
Yeah. So I think the current current corruption, current abuses of the Justice Department, the ranging from the frivolous case against somebody over the reflecting pool and harassing that way to trying to drum up charges against politicians or other people, Fed governor, other people that he hates, to in the other direction of things like all the ICE rights violations. That one seems all immediate. A lot of the blatantly unconstitutional activities in the government. And one, since I focus a lot on international relations, national security, for me, a really big one is there's got to be accountability for the war crimes that, in particular, said the Caribbean boat bombing. So the Iran war is the more globally impactful and more harmful to national interest. But the Caribbean boat bombings are straight up murder. It's out of they are doing the thing that is literally in the manual of this is so obviously an illegal order and a war crime that you should refuse this order. And that is what they are doing. Like they deliberately fired at shipwreck survivors, for example. And those are and they have been pushing out. There's been political purges in the military to make this happen. And that's the sort of thing that either there is a lot of accountability for and efforts to address, or there are going to be many problems that
just to be clear, political purges to make this happen. What you're saying is that the military leadership that did not want to carry out these war crimes in the Pacific, these missile attacks of whoever they were forced out of the military. I mean, several of them.
I should be careful with that. So when I say political purges, so there are partially, yes, but so there have been three prongs. One is racial and gender of trying to, just recently there was a report on the unusually low number of women that were up for promotions in the military that were denied it. There have been specific policies targeting black officers and trying to either deny them promotion or make it where things like the shaving beard thing. It turns out that a bunch of black guys have a skin condition that makes shaving painful. And so it's just clearly something where, and there's been a military policy for ages. Oh yeah, these guys have a skin condition. It hurts, so they can have a beard. It's really not an issue. But so there's a lot of that. So with the race stuff, there are the explicitly political purges, ideological ones, as in if you're not properly MAGA, if you expressed any sort of negativity about something like January 6th, if you ever, refused orders someone, if you said that you wouldn't do operations domestically.
Each person they purge is millions of dollars of investment in training. Like if you're trans, you can't serve. What if you were the very best person in that specialty in your military, but you're a trans?
We've definitely lost people who, even the trans people who aren't specialists that have served with honor should be treated as people who serve the country with honor. And it's wrong against them. But yes, we're also reducing our own capacity just to be bigoted. And then the one you asked specifically, the one where those two have been widely reported. The boat bombings is more suspicion in that we have resignations over it. So it was the admiral who is the top commander of SOCOM, the Southern Command. That resigned, and there was debate back and forth. And there have been a few others that have been pushed out and where little leaks here and there. But as long as they're active duty, and even a lot of the ones that are retired, they're not going to come forward with it. It's the sort of thing where Congress needs to subpoena them and make it that you are being ordered by the legal authority of the federal government of the United States of America to answer this question, and then they will do their duty and they will answer the question. But and actually something that is optimistic about with accountability, not that we'll really get there yet, but if Democrats get at least one House of Congress in the midterms, which looks quite good at this point, to get at least the House, then they can do a lot of these investigations. They can do things like subpoena various senior military officers that were pushed out and ask them questions under oath and get that on the record. And that can both inform the public, hopefully, make it that people take it more seriously as a problem. More people do. I know a lot of people do, but even more people do. And then also set up the potential for real accountability when hopefully anti-Trump forces get power in 2029.
Yeah. Hopefully. All right. I will let you go.
I don't know. We said this last time too, right? Where I think I'm a little more optimistic about efforts for it. And look, maybe again, it could be another one where I eat my words, but I think that this is the reaction to the Biden presidency. So meaning that we already tried the non-accountability thing. And this actually connects to the point about the primaries too, that you see, I think a lot more of the base really wants fighters. The primary voters really want fighters. I think a lot of the public, and especially anti-corruption, is a really good method for this. People don't like government officials stealing from taxpayers and living lives of luxury where they can't afford stuff. I would not want to get anybody's hopes up to expect total accountability across the board. Everybody's being punished. It all comes out, any of that stuff. But more than we got, say, after 2020, yeah, I'm reasonably optimistic for that.
I hope you're right. It would be amazing to see it. Nicolas Grossman, always such a pleasure to get to talk to you and fire off all these questions. Go read his most recent piece at MS Now, but also subscribe to Substack, Arc Digital. Follow him on Blue Sky. Great follow on Blue Sky. And those are the plugs, I think, unless you got anything else, Nick.
No, thanks. And I'll just say thanks everybody in the chat. And in case anybody came here via me rather than via Pete, follow Pete. He's on social media on both Threads and Blue Sky. Is on here with regular podcasts, which I enjoy listening to. I'm not really a watcher, more of a listener, and enjoy coming on. So thanks everybody, and thanks Pete.
Bye everybody. Thanks Nick. All right, there you go. Nicolas Grossman was today's guest. Go follow him on Blue Sky and subscribe to his Substack at Arc Digital. You can watch that interview over at Substack or at YouTube where you're watching this whole show maybe. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe. Support me at patreon.com/Pete Dominick or Substack at StandUpWithPete. And I will be back here tomorrow with Democracy Forward's Sky Perryman. But look for us to be live at 11 a.m. East today, Thursday. And I will talk to you later. Thank you so much for being here. Be the change you want to see. Go get them, Tiger. Bye-bye.
When the tyrants taunt you and the sirens teach you, better stand up. Stand up. Let the brave meet the challenge. Let the weak flee. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. When you're tired of begging, saying pretty please, that's the time you gotta finally get up off of your knees. When you can't see the forest for the burning trees, you got to stand up. Hey, you've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you got to stand up. Stand up. I think you're driving wheels with leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. So get up off of your butt, down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of a stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change would begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. Alright, we got to speak up, we got to reach up, and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up. Oh, got to stand